Hello and welcome to Paranormal Lens, hosted by Jotnick's Paranormal. I'm Kirsten Trucano, and joining me is Chad Thomas and Jamie Widener.
Good evening. How are you tonight, Kirsten?
I'm back.
You
I'm
are
feeling much better.
good.
Um,
All right, good. We don't have to bring any Lysol or anything along. You're good.
no,
All right.
no. I was saying to Chad last week on Tuesday. I laid down in bed. I looked. It was 7:30, and I'm like, I'll stay up. I'll watch a little bit of the podcast, and then probably fall asleep. I woke up at 9:50 and went, "Well, kind of missed the podcast."
I said we were still going, Jamie.
Yeah, we were. So eh. Oh well. I'm glad you're on the mend.
Yep.
Yeah, finally.
As we said it, we said it in the air, obviously. But when one family member gets it and the next one gets it, it's only a matter of time. Like the line is you're
Oh
in,
yeah.
in the queue. So
Surprisingly, Cassie's the only one that didn't get this.
ah,
Good
So
for her. Good
that's a
job.
plus.
maybe she was patient zero and you just said no.
She might have been. I mean, she's pretty stoic. She really doesn't show much pain.
Right.
Listen, she's got a tooth coming in right now, and I didn't know it until I was looking closely. So
That's cool. All
yeah,
right.
there's that.
Moving on. Right. Next thing you know, she's driving.
That's too soon.
I know. I'm going to say it every time though.
I mean, I've got an 18-year-old, not 18, 19-year-old who's not driving. 18, what?
Yes, sure. I'm well aware.
I will have to show you guys a photo then. There's an app that my family uses to share photos of her. And my
Okay.
dad had posted a photo of her in his lap in the car. They were parked because I knew exactly where they were at. They were parked, but she was hands on the steering wheel
Oh yeah.
Get them started at the beginning. Yep.
right at the beginning.
My goodness. That's cool.
So
So, how have you guys been?
busy. It's my spring busy season, and I've been working, and that's about it. So yeah.
Yeah, busy weekend. Not a lot. Um, just the Saturday was we did the race against racism here in Lancaster through the YWCA. It's an annual 5K that they do that is about 3,000 participants. So it's an event. It has a festival at the starting point and ending point's an out and back event. That's always fun, and it was a icky weather-ish day, and it didn't stop anybody from coming out. So it was fantastic. And then Saturday night, the launch music conference was here in Lancaster, and I have a
Oh,
friend
yeah.
who's an artist, so we got to go see a hip hop showcase. So which was fun, a lot of fun actually. He was the headliner at the end and of the evening and tore it down. So it
Good.
was great.
Nice.
I got to hang out with him and other artists afterwards for a while, and just had a blast actually.
Good.
I'm too old though to be out hanging out till the God's hours of the night anymore. So Sunday was ouchie day, but recovery day, if you will. But
Well, but if if we're investigating your outlay, Jamie,
it's different.
That's a
It's totally
different,
different.
different.
Totally,
um,
totally not the same. Uh, I had a different kind of spirits with me Saturday night. Uh,
okay.
so, but
I understand now. So
yeah, it's still a really good time. If anybody's around Lancaster when this event happens every year, it's well worth it. Just there's so many different venues and artists playing everywhere all through the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Um, just a really cool event. And there's education around it as well. That's why it's a conference.
hmm
But it's really a lot of great acts just doing their best and really, really cool. Every genre you want to hear will be here.
Yeah, I got to see some clips from launch. So that was pretty cool to kind of just see the clips. I didn't know about it. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out for next year.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Do they take paranormal teams as a booth somewhere? I mean,
No, sadly not.
Unfortunately,
Well, maybe. I mean, if you sponsor something, if you pay them enough, I'm sure they'll let you. One of those things. But
we'll have to work on that one.
yeah, I have to have a budget for that. Put in next year's budget.
Yeah. So,
Perfect.
Cool. It looks like Todd's here with us tonight. It says, evening, everyone. Hope all is well. And added that the beard is looking good. Thank you. The beard says thank you as well. Um, so good to see you, Todd. Thanks for coming.
I wonder if Todd knows we've been talking about him here and there about getting him to come out with us at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe so.
Well,
I mean,
seems like a good time to reach out to him then.
a few minutes ago we were trying to get Jamie to appear. We said his name 3 times, and just like that, he appeared.
So,
I was summoned apparently. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
weird.
so all right. Well,
That's what I get for being late getting online, right? Oh, okay.
I was about to send a photo of the timer to you and just be like, Jamie, you got 5 minutes.
Yeah, this is the way it goes, and anybody who does these kind of things, you've got a schedule, right? And anything we do, we've got a schedule, and all it takes is for one thing to go sideways somewhere along the way for you to be behind schedule, and
Yep.
then the stressor begins. So for me, it's usually like, we're all in our homes, that's how we're doing this. It's no surprise, I guess. You can see our backgrounds and all, but those watching anyway. But in that, there's home life stuff to get done, and the one variable here that always seems to go astray is my dog, who gets a walk around 8 p.m. Eastern time to get ahead of this. And sometimes she's like, okay, let's go. I'm going to get home. And sometimes she's like, I don't think we need to go back anytime soon.
We're going to take the longest, slowest walk we can.
Let's see where this goes, and I'm like, dude, we got to go. We got to go. So that was tonight.
That's all right.
Fair.
You made it.
Yeah,
So,
always well.
and we do want to say we miss our friends Heather and Bert. They are on vacation, hopefully visiting haunted castles and stuff.
Or not haunted castles.
I'm enjoying the photos so far.
Yeah, they've been putting up a good amount of stuff. They've been very active in the trip all through Scotland. So safe travels back, friends, and safe journey while you're there.
But we do miss you. So hopefully you catch up on this in a few weeks. So they made an excuse like they're 7 hours ahead of us, and
Ever.
Unacceptable.
They have alarm clocks in Europe too,
and they walked 10,000 steps today, so they're too tired to come. So I don't know, something like that. But
They'll catch up. It's
That's
okay.
like a
They're going to
Tuesday.
have a whole plane ride back. They're going to have plenty of time to listen.
Yeah, or sleep then instead. See, whatever.
So anyway, but we're not here to talk about trips to Europe. I'd love to.
Technically, we're talking about
Kinda.
something that happened in Europe.
Well, what are we talking about then, Kirsten?
Well, we're going to be talking about probably one of the most notable exorcisms. It did inspire the Exorcism of Emily Rose, for anyone that's big into horror movies like I am. We're going to talk about the Exorcism of Anneliese Michel.
Okay.
So we're going to get right into that. I will say the slides, some of the photos may seem a little rough. They are during the exorcism. You can see, first of all, how healthy she was, and you're going to start to see the decline. So we're going to get right into the discussion or the presentation, and then we'll discuss.
Okay.
I also have an audio for at the end. So there are stories that haunt because they involve ghosts, and there are stories that haunt because every person involved believed they were doing the right thing. Tonight's story is not about shadows in old houses or whispers in forgotten hallways. It is about a real young woman, a daughter, a student, a devout believer. A woman whose suffering became the center of one of the most infamous exorcism cases in modern history. Her name was Anneliese Michel. To some, she was a victim of demonic possession. To others, she was a young woman suffering from severe neurological and physiological illness. And to others still, she became a cautionary tale about what happens when faith replaces medicine. What makes this case so chilling is not just how it ended, but how easily tragedy was mistaken for salvation. This is a story of belief, fear, and devastating consequences of misunderstanding illness. A decade later, one question still lingers in silence. Was Anneliese Michel possessed? Or abandoned by the very people who thought they were saving her? Anneliese was born on September 21st, 1952, in Bavaria, West Germany, to deeply devout Catholic parents, Joseph and Anna Michel. Her family's faith was not casual or cultural, it was a center to their lives. Anneliese attended Mass twice a week and embraced the religion from an early age. By all accounts, she was serious, disciplined, and intensely spiritual. The Michel household appeared ordinary on the surface, but it operated under strict religious values. Guilt, penance, and moral purity were emphasized heavily. Those close to her described her as quiet, reserved, yet intelligent and hardworking. As a teenager, she attempted to live a normal life. She went to school, later attended the University of Würzburg, and pursued education despite her increasingly troubling health issues. To classmates, she was deeply religious, perhaps more so than most, but not unusual enough to raise concern. That would soon change. At age 16, Anneliese experienced something terrifying. She blacked out at school and reportedly wandered around in a trance-like state, which she had no memory of the event. To those around her, it appeared as if though she slipped into another consciousness entirely. A year later, another episode occurred. She awoke in a trance and had wet the bed. Soon after, her body convulsed violently, her limbs shook uncontrollably, and this was not a one-time incident. The episodes continued, growing more severe. Concerned, her family sought medical help. She was eventually examined by a neurologist and diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy. This neurological disorder can cause seizures, altered consciousness, memory disruption, and in some cases, vivid hallucinations. It can also be associated with Geschwin syndrome, a condition marked by hyperligosity, compulsive behavior, and intense emotional experiences. In hindsight, this diagnosis was crucial because many of the behaviors later interpreted as possession aligned with documented neurological symptoms. But at the time, the line between illness and spiritual crisis blurred. After her diagnosis, Anneliese was prescribed medication for epilepsy, but the treatment did not appear to improve her condition. As the months and years passed, her symptoms worsened. She began reporting terrifying visions. She claimed to see the face of the devil wherever she went. She heard voices whispering in her ears. While praying, she said demons told her she was damned and destined to rot in hell. To Anneliese, these were not symptoms. They were evidence. She became convinced she was possessed. And once that belief took root, her behavior spiraled into increasingly disturbing extremes. She ripped her clothes off her body. She performed up to 400 squats a day. She crawled beneath tables and barked like a dog for 2 days. Ate spiders and coal. She bit the head off of a dead bird. Licked her own urine from the floor. These acts horrified those around her. Yet in framework of possession, they became proof of demonic influence. What modern psychiatry might have interpreted as psychosis or severe mental illness was instead filtered through theology. And theology would soon take over. Anneliese and her family turned to the Catholic Church for help. At first, priests refused. They urged medical intervention and reminded the family that exorcisms require authorization from a bishop. Most clergy believed she needed psychiatric care, but persistence changed everything. Eventually, Anneliese met Father Ernest Alt. Unlike others, he believed her claims. He later testified that she didn't look like an epileptic. This statement would become infamous. To him, her suffering seemed spiritual. Anneliese herself wrote to him, "I am nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do?" She also told him, "I want to suffer for other people, but this is so cruel." These words revealed a woman deeply immersed in religious guilt and martyrdom. Alt petitioned Bishop Joseph Stangl. After consideration, the bishop approved a formal exorcism. Father Arnold Renz was assigned to carry it out, and it was ordered to be done in total secrecy, and that set the stage. From 1975 to 1976, over 10 months, Anneliese underwent 67 exorcism sessions. Some lasted up to 4 hours. She was also restrained during these rites. The sessions followed Catholic exorcism traditions rooted in the Ritual Romanum, the Church's official manual for such practices. By this point, exorcisms had become rare in Catholicism, but pop culture had reignited the fascination. The release of The Exorcist in the early 1970s renewed public interest in demonic possession. In these sessions, Anneliese claimed 6 demons inhabited her: Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and Fleischmann, a disgraced priest. Each allegedly fought for dominance. Their voices were described as low, guttural, and hostile. Recordings from these sessions captured disturbing exchanges. At times, the entities argued. Hitler reportedly declared, "People are stupid pigs. They think it's all over after death. It goes on." Judas insulted him as a big mouth with no real say in hell. Whether these voices reflect spiritual entities or a fractured psychology remains fiercely debated. But what is certain is that Anneliese's body was failing. During the exorcism, Anneliese's health collapsed. She continued kneeling in prayer for hours. The repeated strain broke bones and tore tendons in her knees. She stopped eating. Whether by delusion, coercion, or belief, nourishment disappeared from her life. By July 1st, 1976, she was dead. She weighed just 66 pounds, and she suffered from malnutrition, dehydration, pneumonia, and multiple fractures. She was only 23 years old. Her death was not sudden, it was a final step in a prolonged, visible deterioration, and it forced Germany to confront what had happened behind closed doors. Following her death, Anneliese's parents and the 2 priests were charged with negligent homicide. The trial began on March 30th, 1978, and became a national spectacle. Prosecution argued that Anneliese suffered from severe mental illness, that medical treatment had been abandoned in favor of dangerous religious intervention. Doctors testified that she was not possessed. They pointed to epilepsy, psychosis, and the effects of extreme religious pressure. The defense presented exorcism recordings as evidence of supernatural influence, but the court was unconvinced. The 2 priests were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence. They received 6-month suspension sentences and 3 years probation. Anneliese's parents were spared punishment under German law, with the court stating they had suffered enough. Later, even the Catholic Church revised its position. It acknowledged that Anneliese Michel had been mentally ill and not possessed. The case of Anneliese Michel remains one of the most unsettling intersections of religion, medicine, and human suffering. It continues to inspire films, books, and endless debate. Some still insist supernatural forces were involved. Others see tragedy as a failure of critical thinking. But beyond speculation lies one undeniable truth. A young woman needed help, and the system around her interpreted her pain through belief rather than evidence. The story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. When does faith become harmful? How does cultural expectation shape illness? And what happens when suffering is romanticized instead of treated? Anneliese Michel's life was not a horror movie. It was not entertainment. It was a deeply human tragedy, and perhaps one of the most chilling parts is that every person involved believed they were acting out of love. So that is all I have. However, I was able to find a bit of the recordings on YouTube. Um, Fun thing is, everyone posts the recordings and they love to talk over it. However, someone had posted a recording that they had posted on TikTok and put it up to YouTube. So, Chad, I sent it to Chad, and he is going to be able to play it for us.
So,
Keep in mind, they were in Germany, so you won't be able to understand them because they're speaking in German. So,
okay, you ready for me to roll it?
absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Ich verrichtet so, dass ich in dem Wald rein bin. Ich trag dir die Rotznase noch so lang, bis es lebt wird. Saublödelei. Und geht kein Zurück. Sie in alle Ewigkeit.
Sag mir den Namen.
Ich, der Judas und der Nero, der Kain und der Hitler. Sechszimmer.
Das ist der sechste.
Oh, den haben wir gelogen.
Den habt ihr
So, yeah, bit of the exorcism tapes. We can discuss.
Before we get that far, do you want to cite your sources?
Ah, yes. Every time, and thank you, Jamie. You save me all the time on this. Sorry, I am having to look back to it. My source is actually one website. It is allthat'sinteresting.com/Anneliese Michel Exorcism. So yes.
Okay. Your YouTube source?
YouTube source. That's the one I didn't get. Hold on, I have it saved.
I was gonna say I
We can
can
come back to that. To be fair, we should acknowledge the use of the audio.
Yeah, yes. It's
okay.
right up here now. So that clip comes from at Horror Buff. Jamie keeping me on top of stuff.
Keeping us honest. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we comment, I'll throw up Todd's comment here.
Yeah. So Todd says a very sad story. We will never know, but would have been interesting to see if she had received proper medical care if the symptoms of possession would have continued. And that's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
We all clicked. We all clicked that one. Okay. There we go.
I didn't. I don't have that right.
We all. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I know of this a little bit anyway. I think anyone who's been around, and us old folks, we've been around a while, so this happened in our lifetime. So it's not like so far away and back in the the dark ages and all this stuff way ago. It was 1976. I mean, it's not that long ago, 50 years. So
Mm-hmm.
the couple things that really struck me, and I think Todd's point is in this as well, is the world has changed since then. I was just having a conversation with a coworker this afternoon, around mental health care and access to it. Talking about insurance and premiums and things like that. The world is viewing mental health more openly now than we may have ever before.
Yeah.
And and that's not just to say people who have extraordinary cases of mental health issues, but also just self care mental health. The things that we should all be doing for ourselves on a regular um, basis, daily basis, whatnot. It was taboo though back in the 70s and before. And it's interesting to me that the world, the world, not the wrong way to say it, the family, in this case, turned away the world of medical and went to the world of faith. Because that's kind of the way it's taught.
Hmm.
Your faith will heal you, and how many times? And I've never experienced this myself, but we've seen this enough in media and entertainment world. But the evangelical Baptist kind of church thing, we're out in the tent and people are laying hands and healing and that kind of thing. People, if it's said it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and you're going to the power of suggestion places you in a better situation. And family wanted the best for their kid. I get it. We all would in that case. When all else seems to be failing, you turn to faith. And this is a case where it didn't turn out the way they expected. It's
No.
really a tragedy.
Um,
I think some of the questions that can you go back to there were three questions you asked in your script. Can you go back to those? Because I thought they were interesting.
yeah. So the questions are: when does faith become harmful? How do cultural expectations shape illness? And what happens when suffering is romanticized instead of treating?
Well, let's start with the first one. When does faith become harmful? I not wanting to step on toes here, but I think if you put so much in faith and that it turns away any possibility of treatment from the medical community, you're turning it into something that's dangerous. Faith is very important to people. It's a great thing to have, but you also have to have the balance.
Mm-hmm.
And if the faith healing isn't working, then you should look at another option as well. The medical there's other types of healing. There's energy healing. There's all sorts of things that you can turn to. You should never put your eggs all in one basket. Even some of the things I'm reading on energy healing, they say it should be done in partnership with Western medical studies and things like that, not just energy healing or Reiki or any of those types of things. So I think you can't just take the faith side of it and go with that. So I think that's
Yeah.
where it becomes dangerous, where you're just relying on one thing.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm all about having faith. Like I feel like having faith in something is what kind of makes us human and gives us a drive. But there is a point of, sorry, my bearded dragon just rolled off her rock and um, but no, but like I'm with you of having that balance,
Hmm.
like believing in the medicine and science, but also still having your belief in faith and everything. And the parents, they believed their faith was going to help, and that's,
Hmm.
I understand where they didn't get punished. That German court said they've already been through enough.
Right.
Now, the priest, I kind of do agree with their sentencing, especially that they're like, we're going to do this behind closed doors. Like, we're going to hide that now.
Right.
Um,
And then your second question,
Cultural expectations shape illness. And yeah, The Exorcist was 5 years before this.
so seeing a movie like this, or with an exorcism,
Yeah.
any I guess any of the things were parallel. They just assumed that this is what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of like, actually, no, because I'm thinking of it. Because I was trying to think of movies that like are more recent that are kind of having that, and uh, Hell House, Waldorf, the book that Jamie has given us to read. It makes they've been saying like, hey, we've been like when we have people come in to do investigations, they're bringing stuff up from Hell House. I'm like, are they having that because they've seen Hell House and it was filmed there, or has this stuff always been there?
Yeah. Stefan also said that
Oh,
Damien Omen came out around this time frame.
I didn't realize that. I knew it was an older movie. I didn't realize. Yeah,
The originals, yeah, it's in early 70s.
yeah,
That's a good point. Well, this is a slightly different direction, but when we did the episode on Chupacabra a while back, the original sighting in Puerto Rico came out basically a few weeks after the release of the movie Species, which
yeah.
has a very close description to the creature that was sighted in the backyard of the first um, witness to the creature. So and she admitted she saw the movie. So is it the power of suggestion? Is it something to subconsciously even?
Right.
Can that have a play in our psyche? Because everything leaves an imprint, right? Whether you remember it directly or not, but it certainly has left a value to many along the way. And I can't speak to say that the Michelle family has seen these movies or interested in these movies or whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it was a cultural thing to say that it's pop
Right.
culture to some degree at the time because it is out there in release. So
Hmm.
there
And
is
it,
that. There's a potential.
right, and it doesn't have to be their family because if her friends saw it and they started talking about the movie and she's like, oh well, that's happening to me, like then that's how these things get stitched together.
Well, you're
Yeah.
looking for a connection, a relation of some way. You're like, oh yeah, that, and the disassociation between reality and fiction. The lines get crossed.
Hmm.
When you already have a challenged mental health state.
Hmm.
So, I can certainly see how some of this stitched together to the negative in her case or her situation.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this started at 16 and it only got worse. I Me as a 16-year-old, if something traumatic happened to me, I thought it was the end of the world. So,
We know a few 16-year-olds like that.
yeah, I completely get the I mean, I would be terrified if all of a sudden I started having like passing out and having almost like these trance like states
Right.
at a young age. And she was like her parents. She was so devoutly religious that she was like, has to be what it is.
Well, that let's go to number 3.
Yeah.
Repeat that again, please. 'Cause I think there's a tie there.
What happens when suffering is romanticized instead of treated?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the penance point. You have a penance because you've done some sinning or something egregious to your faith, and you have to go through the trial of penance to reclaim your place. And that kind of feels there, like where some of this may be as well.
Hmm.
It's it and I'm stepping out of my comfort zone here to speak to this. Bear with me. I'm going to stumble a little bit, but what we perceive and what we understand are what we expect, what we perceive are probably two different things. That it would be okay to do so, but the reality is that it's helping to exasperate the slide into a bad place instead of helping the person climb out of it. They're just going further down the path to the wrong way. And that is definitely what happened to her in this case. And the loss of the loss of weight is what's kind of struck me. I believe you said she passed at 66 pounds, which is extraordinarily malnourished. It's no one, no reason why they wouldn't have had criminal charges against anything that
Right.
would have happened there, because that's
Right.
and maybe it's some of her Annelise's belief that she had to couldn't eat or wouldn't eat because she had to suffer. I don't know, but that kind of takes me there. Like, this is what that is. And it's a good intentions, but a bad outcome.
Right.
Or the belief that it would be a good outcome and just a bad out. I don't know where I'm going there, but I could see it, at least from this side of it. And hindsight's always 20/20, I guess, too. I'm assuming that do we know if she was an only child, or had siblings, or anyone else in the home?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Just
Put
wondering how
it to the internet.
the household. I mean, obviously the parents have to live with this no matter what, but siblings as well.
That's no.
She was not. She was one of four daughters.
Oh yeah.
So.
So that impacted three siblings as well. Then.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a young adult. And she's an adult. She's a young adult. She's an adult at 23. When she
Right.
passed. But in the medical world, or I guess I'll say the medical world, whether she was capable of taking care of herself, or she would have been the ward of her parents still or not. Clearly, this went on for a long time, and 67 or so exorcisms. That's
in
amazing.
10 months.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Stefan has a good point here. And he says Catholic dogma relies on guilt and shame. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
my family was the weird family on my mom's side. We were the only ones that were not Catholic. So we got shamed a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember growing up, a lot of times it was those family members that were trying to like convince me to convince my mom to move that way. Not saying anything is wrong with the Catholic religion. It's just
No, and everybody needs something, and if that's what's for you,
Yeah.
then that's right. But
yeah,
it scares me that something that we're talking. You talk about a loving God, and then it's all fire and brimstone and guilt and shame. Like, how do those things connect? And religion was meant to control people. It was meant to give them answers to things they didn't understand, and control them, and keep them from doing things that would harm them, like not eating pork. That was the whole basis of that. Was an animal that they couldn't preserve the meat. They couldn't cook it correctly. People died from it. So it's like, oh, well, then God says that you shouldn't eat that animal. But
all religions are that way.
there's good points of religion, and there's bad points of religion.
Yeah,
And I think we need all of them to start coming close to the real answers we're looking for. But that's a whole different podcast.
that's a whole different podcast.
We could go down a big rabbit hole on that one.
You sure could.
I really was thinking about this whole story today, like a lot more than I have this like past few weeks. And my mind went into like, there could be two theories to what actually happened. The one that seems very plausible was she was a mentally ill woman that, due to the epilepsies and everything, her psyche just started breaking down more, leading to the exorcism and her death. The other thought was, I'm like, and this would have been if she didn't have the illness that she had, or while she had this illness, her mind was already so weak that is how these demons had gotten into her. So I'm like, there's two ways. It could have been the actual medical way, or she was actually possessed.
Or like you said, it could be little column A, little column B.
Yeah, a little both.
Like,
And that it started making me think of, I went ghost hunting 4 months after my mother died, and I was at Fort Mifflin, and I got messed with a lot more, and I think it's because I was in a more fragile state. So that was where I'm like, well, it could have been possible that she was possessed because she was in a more fragile state. Is that the truth? I don't think so. I really do think that this was a mental illness.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point. We all have things that we do prior to investigations to protect ourselves. But what are we really protecting ourselves from?
Right.
We don't know, right? That's the unknown. That's what we're trying to do. The parts to this that would make something be tangible to prove, an existence or
Hmm.
a presence of something more than in the afterlife. So what that looks like is going to be uniquely different for everyone. And whether you have a say a St. Christopher medal, or you carry a cross, or you do a prayer, grounding and centering makes sense, that kind of stuff. Whatever your comfort is, to do, you do. And
Absolutely.
it always makes me think of a scene from the Mummy movie, the original one with Brandon Fraser back in the day, where Benny, the Egyptian guy, who's their kind of like their guy, helping him out with stuff, he gets cornered by the mummy, and he is trying to find in this litany of medallions that he's wearing the right one that's going to protect him against this mummy, and he's pulling out all these things, and finally it's the Star of David, and then the mummy recognizes that, and that's his saving grace, because he had all of them, like every single thing you could think of is around his neck, and it's hysterical, like it's meant to be funny. But that's the thing. Like he probably has no belief in any of them, but he carries them because one of them might be what helps him and
Right.
protects him. And in this case, it did, in a very Hollywood way.
Right. But
So,
that's the Hollywood way. But is that how it works, or is it because you have that metal? Is it connected to you, and it's protecting you because it's connected to you?
and that's the point.
Right.
That's why it's personal to each and every one of us and the ways and means that we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the place where I don't question anyone.
Right.
Whatever it is
Exactly.
that you do and why you do it is uniquely you, and you're not wrong.
Right.
And
If you need to do a handstand and spin around on your head 3 times before an investigation because that centers you, who am I to stop you?
Right. I mean,
right. Well, hopefully it's something you've done before,
Right.
and we
But
have cameras on it. But
right.
yeah, and that's the thing. And with respects to why though, and I always want to know the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do this? Is because we don't know what we're up against. And if you don't have a faith or a religion of belief, those kind of things, that's totally cool. But if you do, there's heaven and hell, and then hell is the place where all the bad things are, and they're the things that are trying to take us there. All the temptations come from those places, and that's what you want to protect yourself against, because you do want to ascend to the positive. And that thing though is what we don't know when we go out. Are we opening doors or opportunities for things to come to us that we probably can't handle?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yep.
You got comments to catch up on here.
yeah. No, I mean, my way of protecting myself at investigations is probably vastly different than yours, Jamie. I mean, I wear one of the rings I wear is a witch's knot, which is meant for protection and everything. I have a crystal I wear. You, Jamie, I don't know what you do for protection. You could do whatever, and it's fine because
And
it
lucky
works
socks.
for you.
Lucky
do what?
socks. Lucky
Lucky
socks. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No
If
good.
it works for you, it works for you.
And that's the thing. And and if you don't have anything, that's cool too. Like
Yeah.
all good.
And when we were doing public investigations with the team,
Mhm.
we would do grounding and centering, and then we would say 2 prayers. One was a pagan prayer and one was a Christian prayer. And some people asked to leave the room for the one because that they didn't believe in it, which was okay.
Yeah.
But there were some people that connected more with that. I grew up in a Christian family, but listening to the words of the pagan prayer made more sense to me than the words of the Christian prayer. Does it? I mean, do you understand what I mean there?
No, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, it's how you connect to things, and this is evolution of us as people, right? We are raised, and I joke about this all the time, but like go back to being a teenager, and the first job you had, kind of thing. You had to open a bank account, right?
Hmm.
What bank did you choose?
The one your parents were at.
The one your parents were at, right? So you had to go. You went to a church. If you went to church, which church did you go to?
The one your parents went to.
Right.
Whichever
And
one my mom decided at that time.
well, and that's fair, but that's the thing. Wherever they were, that's where you were. And most of us continue that relationship because it's what we know. There's trust in that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, not at all.
You know, but and for me, it was the same. And I remember going off to college, and then one of the freshman things you had to do. I took a religion course, and it was world religions, and I was like, wow. I knew all these other things existed, but I didn't know much about them because they weren't mine. And
Hmm.
I found through that semester that there are so many things that are all over the place that really don't connect to each other physically, at least not originally. We all connect now as the world has become so small, but the way they began was not rooted against or with someone else. It was uniquely their own. And I found so many things that are basically, and I say this to be very simple, but they're basically the same. You have a higher power, you have a system of goods and bads, and you're presented to be good, as an achievement. That's what you want, and bad is punishment, and you will have penalty.
Right.
So
They parallel each other.
yeah, all over the world, and it's amazing to me, like how we all got there without connecting to each other.
Right.
Mhm.
So
So
let's
there's something to it, right? Sort of.
yeah. So let's pick up some of these comments that Stefan had that we missed. Um, Going back to the Catholic and Catholicism, my wedding present from my very devout Catholic great aunt was that she had a candle lit at the Polish Catholic shrine in Bucks County for my lost soul because I was marrying a Protestant woman. I've
Okay.
know multiple people who have the same sort of story that they're very religious Catholic relative, and they married a Protestant, and that was just the end of the world.
My goodness.
So we were talking about how we do different things for baseball players have many superstitions.
Oh yeah.
Me with competing with my horse.
Hmm.
Before I go into a ring, I have a whole slew of things that I do because it's superstition. If I do them, it's going to be a good ride. If I don't, I'm probably going to fall off over a jump. So I get that a lot with the baseball players.
Yep. And then the latest comment was, pagan philosophy has better connection with the spiritual world. I mean, that's what the whole thing about the pagan religion was. It was
It's
a connection.
all about, yeah, it's
In the
nature, the
natural world.
spiritual world.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, with Wicca, a lot of your whole, when you're going to do anything in Wicca, you are giving all the directions. North is for one element, south is for another. Yeah, there's such pagan philosophy. I think I agree with the most out of anything is because of how it connects.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say something to Alex real quick. Crying baby.
So, yeah, this is definitely a lot to dig into and think about here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very heavy subject as well. There's a person involved at the end of this. At the end of the day, this is really about a person, and sadly, they're not with us, and she should still be with us. In a healthy, normal lifespan, she would be.
Hmm.
And that's amazing that it's not that long ago.
No, not at all.
Mm-mm.
If you think about it, that she would be a little younger than my dad would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, puts it in perspective. It's it's close. It's in our, like you said, Jamie. It's in our lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized we can't
That
say
we're old.
hashtag. No, we can't say hashtag road trip with this one.
No.
I don't think I want
although,
to.
although a thing that I did learn while reading through all of this is her grave has kind of become like a go-to place for Catholics because there are still a lot of Catholics that believe that she was possessed, and they will like do like a pilgrimage out to her grave to pay their respects, which I kind of like that. Like there's still she's still known, and I like that.
Well, even if she's just known for the story and the questioning of mental health and versus religion, I think that's
Hmm.
important, and it's a question that we should continue to ask. And we're never going to have an answer, but we should always be asking the question and looking for the right answer.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
so yeah. So, well, thank you, Kirsten, for bringing this to us. Again, it's another story I knew a little bit about, but not in the depth that you brought, and I appreciate it. So,
Yep. Same.
Absolutely.
Same.
any thoughts before we move on to what's coming up? It's sort of heavy. I've got a lot running through my mind at this point,
Yeah.
so I don't want to cut us off, but we're getting close to an hour.
Tammy.
I'm okay. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, next week we're doing something a little bit lighter. Maybe. May 5th at 9 p.m. I'm doing an episode on the old hospital on College Hill. And I have some late breaking news, Jamie and Kirsten.
Oh.
I have 95% confirmation on a special guest.
Yes. Yes. Make sure to use the bathroom before
Yeah,
before it starts.
with this guest, it could be a long show. And the reason that I've asked this guest to join us is he has been to College Hill, and he has had a very interesting experience there, and is willing to share it with us. He actually has written about it in his book that I'm sure he'll talk about next week as well. But Mr. Steve
If he's
Dill,
allowed to join us.
if he's allowed to join
Please
us.
allowed.
We'll see how I'm sure he will be. But Mr. Steve Dills will be hopefully joining us, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. I'm not going to dig into what happened to him because that's his story, but like I said, it'd be interesting. So that's what's next week. After that, we've got a bunch of good things coming up. Magnolia Plantation in Derry, Louisiana, is on May 12th. May 19th, From Folklore to Fear, Cryptids in the Celtic Lands. Kirsten will be taking that on. Mount Vernon, Haunting the Home of Washington on May 26th. June 2nd, Jamie will be doing Mercy Brown, Vampire or Victim. And then Kirsten is going to dig into Shadows of Yoki, Spirits of the Yokai, sorry. Spirits of the Japanese folklore. I touched on this in an episode about Japanese years ago.
Yep. On the Ure. Yep.
Ure. But you're going to dig into this much further, I'm sure. So I'm looking forward.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
There's a big reason why I was scared of walking around Japan at night,
I'm sure.
especially out by Fuji.
It wasn't Godzilla? No? Okay.
No, but I did get a photo of him.
Yes. Let's see this.
I'll send it. I'll send you a photo.
Cool. So that's what's coming up. I want to throw up a comment that Stefan put here.
Yeah,
Being neurodivergent until recently, and that's questionable, got you ostracized and often placed in institutions.
yes. Yeah,
So-
we've discussed this before, and this is part of the Booby's Brewery experience with the family. We have members of the family being sent off to Wernersville to the mental hospital there. It is exactly that, because you weren't being able to be dealt with because you weren't normal, so you had to go away to places where you never came home from.
Yeah, but But Jamie, that was also better than some of the other treatment they got, which we talked about last week in your episode.
Yeah.
I actually was talking to my dad about the house that I grew up in this past week. There were sometimes rooms where people were just locked in that room, and
Yeah.
that's where they lived, and they gave them food in
Wow.
the bathroom facility, and that was, I mean, the bathroom facilities would have been an outhouse,
Yeah.
but
Or a
but
bucket in the corner. Yeah. Whatnot. Yeah. Absolutely.
that's how they
And
lived, and so I'm so glad that we've moved past that because I think 50% of our population, if not more, is neurodivergent, and
right.
we don't have to be in a facility. So anyway, we'll keep going. Contact us if you want. There's a lot to dig in here on tonight's episode and a lot of our other stuff. If you want to reach out and give us your thoughts or comments not on the air, email us at info@paranormal-lens.com. You can check us out along with our parent team, Jot Nix Paranormal, at www.jott-nixparanormal.com. If you want to check out all our social media links and things like that, you can go on Linktree, which is LINK dot, let me start that one over again, linktr.ee slash paranormal lens. And if you want to support us, if you like what we do, if you think it's interesting, you can buy us a coffee and help keep us on the air. That's buymeacoffee.com/paranormal9. Or there's a QR code if you happen to be watching us. That just helps defray some of our costs. We're not going anywhere. We want to stay here and bring you the information, but it helps cover some of our costs that we're putting out there. Did I hit everything?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still thinking about this because there's a lot a lot that we covered tonight. So
Love
And
giving an episode that makes you think.
well, they're always good, right that way. But just, I'm gonna not to extend this conversation, but Stefan dropped a few comments here quick. I think two of these were really worth noting. Extension of how the care was, or care, I use finger quotes for care here,
Right.
but electric shock therapy was one of the means to just, I guess, try to make you right, versus the way you are. And it makes me think of going back to Trans-Allegheny with the ice pick lobotomy
Yeah.
years. All of the just nonsensical in so many ways, but in the time were practical. In the medicine of the day, means of care or treatment that just really, thankfully, have gone away. And speaking of going away, Stefan said they're coming to take me away. Well, let's hope not. At least not tonight.
So yeah, wow.
Yeah, this was heavy in a good way.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Chad. It makes me. It's a I'll be thinking about this for a while, and being very grateful that the world has, over these last 50 years, since Annelise's passing, has come to a better place, although not ideal, but a far better place than we were at this time. And she deserved better than this.
Agreed.
So yeah. Well, again, Kirsten, thank you for bringing this to us tonight. We want to thank all our visitors and viewers and people listening to us on the streams. We do this for you. So we enjoy this talking amongst the three of us, but without people out there listening to it, it doesn't mean anything. So thank you. And on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up with the recordings, the rituals, and the suffering. It all paints a haunting picture. But behind the legend of Anneliese Michel was a young woman whose life ended far too soon. Whether you see demons or diagnosis, her story is one that still echoes as a warning. So stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. If you or someone you know relates to the discussion we had in this episode about mental health, we encourage you to reach out for help. You don't have to go it alone. Mental health resources are available at Global Mental Health Action Network, the World Federation for Mental Health, United for Global Mental Health, and the World Health Organization. Take care of your mind. You matter.